Hi friend, today we're comparing 3 different kindergarten curriculums. I'm Sarah of My Home, Your Home, Our Home. If you're new here, welcome. Welcome back to my channel if you've been here for a while. And today we are comparing 3 different curriculums for kindergarten that are somewhat similar. They all have some literature elements, so I'm calling them literature-based kindergarten programs. We have Sonlight curriculum, My Father's World, and the Gentle and Classical. I have used 2 of these curriculums and recently was able to get my hands on the 3rd, and I have always been wondering how they compared and what is different about them. In my experience, homeschoolers will usually rotate between these or look at these and consider which one they're going to go into. So today I want to just help you to compare and contrast them. What is similar, what is different. I'm not going to tell you which one you should choose, but at the end I will share with you what we have chosen and why we've gone with that. Let me be clear from the very beginning, I'm not trying to bash any one of these programs. I'm not looking down on any one of them. I think they're all awesome programs for different reasons. So this video is here solely to help you to sort through which program you might want to use for your family. I will go through different categories for each of the curricula. We'll talk about the subjects that are included, the teacher workload, student workload, follow-up programs, all of that good stuff. First, days of the week. Sonlight is scheduled with 5 days a week or 4 days a week. You get to choose. My Father's World is a 6 days a week program, which I should clarify is 6 days per unit. So each unit is 6 days long. You're going to be extending it to the next school week unless you want to do school on Saturdays. The Gentle and Classical is more flexible. Things are not scheduled out, as I'll explain later. So you have however many days a week you want to do. The number of weeks and days per school year. Sonlight is 36 weeks or 180 days, which is a school year in a school system. My Father's World is 26 weeks plus a 10-day introductory unit about creation. And with those 6-day weeks, that works out to 166 days per school year. The Gentle and Classical is broken up into terms. There are 3 terms, and within those terms there are 36 units or 36 weeks. The number of books that are included or read throughout the program. This varies quite widely between these programs. Sonlight includes 46 books in their HBL or History, Bible, and Literature and Science put together. In addition to that, there are readers, CDs, and a teacher guide. Sonlight's books are essential to the program. The program relies on these books completely. You draw your history, vocabulary, discussion questions, language arts assignments from these books. In My Father's World, there are 28 books included, plus a classic music CD and a teacher's guide. There is a book list at the back of the teacher's guide that includes book suggestions, and you can go through there and choose more books if you wish, but they're not included in the program, so you'll be finding those in your library or other places. There is also only 1 day a week that is called book time, so only on the 6th day are you actually reading the books, and the rest of the week you're doing other activities. The books are themed around the unit theme for the week, which could be the sun, the moon, or other elements of creation. These book choices are a bit more flexible because you're not tied to those specific books, and there aren't discussion questions which are dependent on those books. The Gentle and Classical includes no books in its actual package, so you're buying those all separately. There are 26 books that are included in the program and recommended. Similar to My Father's World, those are not tied to discussion questions or geography or anything like that, so they are flexible and you can move them around as you wish. Plus you're going to be doing CDs of music. What is the focus of each of these programs? In Sonlight, the focus is U.S. history and Bible. There's also a science focus, and it's in general an exploration of the world and learning how to do science and learning how to investigate things through questions. You also have a big book of questions of why. I'll get more into the science in a minute. In My Father's World, the focus is the alphabet, nature, and Bible. And in the Gentle and Classical, the focus is nature, virtue or character, and the Bible. What subjects are included? In Sonlight, you have all the subjects included. You can actually buy a package where everything is included. Science, math, history, Bible, everything. My Father's World includes many of the subjects, but not all. There is basically no history except for biblical history in the kindergarten program. There is some math and very low-key science. The Gentle and Classical does not have all the subjects included. You're not going to find phonics in there and maybe a few other things that you'd want, but still a very inclusive program for many of the subjects. Now for the subjects. Foreign language. Sonlight and My Father's World don't really include a foreign language in their curriculum. However, if you do want to do that with these programs, you can easily sub out their books in English for books in another language. That's what our family does. Gentle and Classical actually does have vocabulary words in their program. I do want to note that those are just solitary words, so you're not going to be learning an overall language, grammar, structure, any of that stuff. You're learning vocabulary. For Bible, Sonlight includes a one-year children's Bible, so you are reading every day from that Bible. You also have Bible memorization and a biblical worldview interwoven throughout all of the discussion questions and readings. In My Father's World, the thematic concepts of each unit are centered around biblical themes. You have Bible memorization and you have readings from the Bible. These are included in the package, so you're not actually going to be using a children's Bible at all. Instead, you are reading them from the paper for your children. It's a few verses every day. With the thematic concepts for each unit, you have a theme or a statement that you could memorize, possibly if you wanted to, around the Bible. And you're going to have a biblical worldview interwoven throughout this curriculum as well, though you're not going to have the discussion questions spelled out for you for the books and how to interweave that into them. Gentle and Classical, you have a read aloud book of Bible stories. They have a suggestive one for this, but you can choose any one that works for your family. There are virtue studies. You read the book Theology, where you're going to be teaching doctrine to your kids. You read Pilgrim's Progress and you memorize Bible verses and catechism statements. Science. This is where I see a very big difference throughout these programs, and so something that you might want to note. Sonlight's science program is phenomenal. They just revamped it and you can tell I love it. Okay, but it has books with it, so you're reading books, you're doing experiments, you have videos that your kids are watching, and you're doing worksheets. So you have a lot of different avenues for learning this. Then in My Father's World, the science is much more informal. There are nature studies. You don't actually have a science textbook. You have 1 or 2 books for science. It's much less a focus of this program. You're doing an ant farm and a butterfly farm optionally. Gentle and Classical, you have nature volumes, so you can choose to do 1 or 2. One nature volume should cover about 1 semester of science, and so you're doing nature studies. The nature studies focus on animals, waterways, and oceans. You also have statements with that program that you're memorizing. Math. Sonlight's All Subjects package will include a math book of your choice. My Father's World has no math book really included, although you're doing something with Cuisenaire rods, but it's not about math per se, it's about making animals with Cuisenaire rods. So I would say this program is weak in the math department. You're going to find something else that can work with it. The Gentle and Classical recommends a math program, Kindergarten Math with Confidence. And there are some math pages in their morning binder. History. The focus for Sonlight's history in kindergarten is U.S. history. You have a timeline and you also have maps to show different historical events. My Father's World has no history included except for biblical history. Similarly, Gentle and Classical has no history included except when you're doing composer and artist studies and reading the Bible. For language arts, Sonlight has a very heavy focus on language arts. You're reading poetry with your children, you're doing verbal or written creative writing prompts. You have handwriting included in the All Subjects package, and of course lots and lots of reading and books, so a very natural approach to language arts where you're kind of assimilating it from all of the reading that you're doing. You also have readers for the children, which with kindergarten they're learning phonics, and they've also been taught phonics throughout the preschool unit, so they're getting more into reading by themselves at this point. My Father's World includes phonics in their program. It is different than maybe you would find in All About Reading or Logic of English or these types of programs, but it is there, and you have no readers associated with that. Your student packet includes handwriting pages for learning to write the letters. The instructor's guide includes the phonics. You have poetry written in the teacher's guide itself rather than in a separate book. You also have book day once a week where you're reading books for that day. The Gentle and Classical is also language arts heavy. Poetry is included in the memory statements rather than in another book. Then you have a lot of classic literature like Peter Rabbit, Child's Book of Virtues, and so on. The reading level of these programs. Sonlight is very adjustable, so you can do this program with various ages, and you can choose for your history, Bible, and literature package which readers you want to come with that program. Your children, if they have followed Sonlight so far, have already been learning to read. They've learned their phonics already in preschool 3-4 and also pre-K 4-5. Within those programs, Sonlight introduced the letters not by letter names per se, as much as by the letter sounds. And now that they're 5 years old, 6 years old, somewhere around that age range, they are ready to start reading, and so that's what they're doing in this program. My Father's World, your student is starting to learn to read in this program. You can use this program with children who have learned to read. There's a note in the back of the instructor's guide that lets you know this program is still valuable even if your child is already reading. However, the focus for the language arts is on phonics and learning to read. The letters are introduced by their sounds, and you also have a few games that you're playing with those letters. There are kind of foam tactile letters included in the package that your children can feel. The Gentle and Classical includes no phonics instruction. This is something they note, and they say that you need to choose something else. They recommend All About Reading. There are letter pages included in their morning binder. Geography. Sonlight includes maps throughout their teacher's guides so that you can find exactly where a place happened. The focus of this program is on the U.S. and that geography. They also include mission stories, so you are learning about some other countries throughout this program. My Father's World, the geography is an inflatable globe that you're holding and just realizing that the world is a globe. You do have stories and places mentioned throughout the books, however, those are not the subject of particular study. Gentle and Classical does not include any geography in their program. You can buy optional additional programs that are called On Mission, and these focus on several different countries. You can take your pick of what they have, and it has missionary stories in there, and also some cool fun facts and features, that kind of cultural stuff, but none of this is interwoven throughout their package, so it's going to be a separate study. Philosophy of Education. This is quite different between the programs, even though they all are somewhat literature based. Sonlight is based on the ideas of Ruth Beechick, who has the 3 R's: reading, writing, and arithmetic, so you're going to focus a lot on reading and writing and arithmetic throughout this program. You could find Sonlight compatible with several different other philosophies of education, but this is the main one that they base their program on. My Father's World is based on Charlotte Mason. You can see that, and that is much more gentle in its approach than either one of these other programs that is more laid back about reading and that kind of thing. The Gentle and Classical follows classical education and Charlotte Mason mixed together. I do see more of an emphasis on the classical and the readings and that kind of thing, and you're finding living books in there as well, so it's Charlotte Mason. Vocabulary. Sonlight teaches vocabulary in the notes, so you have definitions of words that students might not know. You can make a word wall out of those if you so choose, or just use those for defining words that your students don't know. My Father's World, I did not find any vocabulary included in this program except just the ones that you're naturally going to be picking up through the reading, so you have no separate notes about them. They did not pick out those words for you. Gentle and Classical, you have vocabulary words in their memory statements and in their cards that are printed and included in the program. Inclusivity or diversity. By this I mean exposure to different cultures and races throughout the program, and also maybe some different ideas and ways of looking at things. All of these programs are going to be a biblical worldview, so you're not thinking about looking at these things from an atheist perspective or that kind of thing. Instead, you're going to be looking at it from different cultures, or seeing different history of different cultures. That's what I mean. Sonlight was made with this specific intention in mind of diversity, inclusivity. You're going to find a lot of the heroes from American history that they include in their program are ones that are from many different races and different people groups within the US, and I think that is an amazing feat. That was done very intentionally by them. They also have a missions focus, so you're going to be looking at this from other cultures and other places within the world. My Father's World is also missions minded in their general philosophy. In their program, however, I found their inclusivity and diversity extremely minimal. The Gentle and Classical similarly didn't find any inclusivity or diversity of different types of stories from other cultures. All of these were based on Western European stories and classic literature, which is classical education mainly in the US. If you want to include more diversity and inclusivity, you're going to need to add their On Missions program, which will bring a lot more richness to that. Instructions and scheduling. This is an area in which Sonlight and My Father's World both shine, and Gentle and Classical, you're going to find a little bit more need in this area. So Sonlight comes with a full scheduled out instructor's guide for you. There are also lots and lots of notes so you know exactly what you're going to be discussing and reading. My Father's World also includes a weekly schedule and notes, and you're going to find a lot of detail there to help you to implement this program. Gentle and Classical, you have a unit type of overview, but you have no weekly schedule. So it's a little more flexible if you're looking for that. Flexibility can be for any of these programs. You can spread them out however you wish. But with Gentle and Classical, you can choose maybe you want to have 3 days a week, and that's how you're going to schedule it yourself. Student workload or teaching time. Sonlight recommends that you spend 90 to 120 minutes per day on their subjects. My Father's World recommends 60 to 90 minutes of teaching time, and Gentle and Classical recommends 80 minutes of teaching time. The teacher workload. For Sonlight, this is no prep. Let me just say honestly from experience, no prep at all. It's just open and go. And you're spending about 60 to 90 minutes teaching per day. My Father's World, there is a little bit of prep. Everything is laid out for you in the schedule, like I said, but it is pretty open and go as well. Gentle and Classical, you are scheduling this for yourself, as I just mentioned. So you are needing to look at the overview of the unit and then decide how you're going to teach that. You do have a recommended daily routine or schedule in the package. It includes times from 8 to 3 p.m. So if you want to, you can use that as your set schedule for the day. It does include naps and other types of things in there, so you're not teaching for all of that time. Art. Sonlight has optional art electives that you can include in your package. They have recommended resources, but this is not something that is included in their all subjects package. My Father's World has different art projects that are included in the notes for the section, such as noodle art and things like that. They're included in your schedule. There's no famous art that you're studying necessarily. You could add this optionally on as an elective. Gentle and Classical shines in this area. They have famous artist studies and also include studies of elements of art such as perspective and depth. Physical education or PE. Sonlight has no formal PE included, but you can add this through another book that they recommend. My Father's World has no formal program as well. And for the Gentle and Classical preschool, at least, they had some program called Brain Gym that they recommended. I don't see that kind of program in their kindergarten program. So kind of with all of these programs, there's a gap there for physical education. I think there is in general for a lot of homeschool programs. Music. Sonlight has no formal music program. Again, there are options, electives that they recommend. However, with Sonlight, you are memorizing Bible verses set to music. My Father's World, you are studying some classic works with a CD and also listening to some songs. Some songs are written down in the notes and you're supposed to sing them together, such as Christian songs and children's songs. Gentle and Classical, as you would expect with a classical program, includes classical music in its studies. You are listening to musical symphonies. You also have the catechism songs, Bible verse songs, and hymns. So they do hymn studies throughout this, and you are reading the book, The Story of the Orchestra. Let's take a look back at the previous years of the programs. So what programs do these curriculums offer before this year of kindergarten? Sonlight offers 2 years of preschool before this kindergarten program. You have P3-4 and PK4-5. My Father's World also offers 2 preschool programs for 3-4 and 4-5, and my Gentle and Classical offers 1 preschool program for any age that you're going to use that program for. Future years. Both Sonlight and My Father's World go through 12th grade, so you have programs for every year up through then. Gentle and Classical only goes through around 1st grade so far. You can use their kindergarten program for kindergarten or 1st grade. This is the last program they have as of this recording, formally for an entire year. After this, they have virtue studies, character studies, and on mission. So you have little kind of things you could use as unit studies, but I would not say they're a complete program yet. They're probably working on making more of this. Unit studies. So are these programs based on unit studies? For Sonlight, no. You're not going to have unit studies. Instead, you're just continuing with your reading throughout the year. My Father's World is based on unit studies. They're centering around elements of the natural world. And Gentle and Classical is also a unit study somewhat. You have a unit overview that just gives you kind of a time frame. It's not really a specific topic that you're studying for that unit, although you are changing up some of the things that you are studying within that unit for the next unit. So I guess, yeah, it does fit within a unit study, just not an overall theme for that study. Student workbook and worksheets. Sonlight includes student worksheets for science in their program. My Father's World includes a student workbook with some math, number stuff, fine motor skills, cut and paste, and some phonics. Gentle and Classical has a morning binder that includes some letters, writing your name, location, weather, those types of morning circle time type of activities. Missions focus. Sonlight includes several books for missions in their program. My Father's World doesn't have any specific books included in this particular program, although overall they do have a very missions focus. And Gentle and Classical, you can choose any on missions study to include in your program. Classroom use. So are you looking at using these for a classroom? Sonlight doesn't have any specific instructions for doing that. My Father's World does have specific instructions for a Christian school classroom and how to implement this program there. Gentle and Classical, again, like Sonlight, it is possible to do that, but it's not indicated in the program how to do so. Multiple ages and levels. Are these programs suitable for various ages within a family? Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Poetry. Sonlight includes a poetry book called Llama Who Had No Pajama. For My Father's World, the poetry is printed in the teacher's guide, and Gentle and Classical has Robert Louis Stevenson poems printed in their teacher's guide as well. Handwriting. Sonlight includes handwriting in their all subjects package. Handwriting without tears is usually the one I see people using with Sonlight, but there are other options as well. My Father's World includes some handwriting in their student workbook, and Gentle and Classical does not include a formal handwriting program, although they do have some letter writing and other name writing in their morning binder. Note helps. Sonlight comes with extraordinary help in the form of notes. So you have discussion questions and other types of notes throughout the guide to help you understand exactly what you should be doing and to give you ideas for talking with your kids about what they're reading. My Father's World also has questions, though not to the same depth for each book because their books are a little more flexible than Sonlight's, and you have a lot of notes and helps throughout their teacher's guide. There's also a weekly note from the developer of their program and for a little bit of reflection for the teacher each week. With their phonics program, you have somewhat of a script that you're following as you're teaching that program. Gentle and Classical comes with a lot of chatty explanatory notes for how to use the program and the reasons why they've chosen different ways of teaching or different books, but there aren't really any notes for the discussions or about the books or anything like that. Memory work. Sonlight does Bible memory work. There are also sometimes some poems that you memorize. My Father's World does Bible memorization. Gentle and Classical, true to classical education, does a lot of memorization. So you're doing Bible memory work, catechism memory work, and also some memory statements for science and other subjects. Manipulatives. By this, I mean anything that your kids can interact with that's hands-on, like a toy, that can be used for learning. Sonlight includes a science kit, so you have all the supplies for your experiments in there, but other than that, there are no manipulatives in this program. My Father's World has several manipulatives that come in their package. You have Lowry foam letters, Cuisinart rods, and optional farms for ants and butterflies. Gentle and Classical, being all paper, doesn't have a lot of manipulatives, but you do have storyboards that you print out and your kids use as you're reading a story or narrating a story after it. Gentle and Classical also has memory statement cards that you can use for your kids to hold as you're talking. Scope and sequence. Sonlight includes a book list, and you also have an overview of what your kids will be learning for the year, but there is really no scope and sequence telling you this is exactly what your kids are going to attain. My Father's World also doesn't have a scope and sequence per se, but they do have notes telling you what you're going to be studying and the focus of their program. Gentle and Classical includes a list of attainments, so things that your student should be able to do by the end of the program. These are your goals as a teacher, things that you know you're shooting for with your student. I would say they do sound pretty advanced, so you're setting high goals. Okay, now I just want to share with you some strengths and weaknesses of each program and some overall impressions. So this is the part where a little more of my opinion of these programs is going to come into play. So if you don't want anyone influencing your decision, then maybe you wouldn't be watching this video, right? Okay, let's start with the weaknesses of each program. So with Sonlight, the weakness I find is the arts, music and art. This isn't such a subject of study, a topic of study for Sonlight, and so you're going to find some recommendations for adding these on as electives, but it's not as something that you're actually doing within the program itself. It's something you have to do or decide to do as a family. With My Father's World, I would say the literature is actually one of the weakest parts. As an English teacher, I know that reading every day to your children is an extremely important thing for building literacy skills, and because My Father's World just has reading on the final day, I would say that's a really big weakness of this program. But I would say that as a teacher, you do have the option to spread the books out. So if you're going to use this program, please read to your kids every day. Use their book recommendation list, but please make sure you're getting reading time with your kids every single day. Another weakness that they have is science, but this again depends on your philosophy of teaching. So if you are wanting to go with a Charlotte Mason approach where you're doing nature studies and you're just approaching science from a more natural perspective and kind of waiting to get into that formally, then this will suit you fine. But I would say that the science program in my father's world is very basic, at least compared to Sonlight's program and even compared to Gentle and Classical's program. With all these programs, I love them. What I am going to say though is the Gentle and Classical has quite a few weaknesses when it comes to an overall programs. So you might want to find some other things that you're going to include to help you with these weaknesses. I'll list them off for you. The first is that all books are additional, so your cost for this program is not going to be the $140 that you're paying or $60 that you're paying, whatever bundle you choose. Instead, you're going to have to find these books at your local library, and if you do that, they're not going to be in your home all the time, and you're using them through several of them throughout the program. So that's one of the weaknesses I would say with this program. But there are other printable programs out there that have just the same weakness. So something for you to just consider. For my father's world and the Gentle and Classical, I would say the weakness of not having discussion questions or comprehension questions, especially for this age group where they're starting to learn to read and they're paying attention to stories, can be a bit troublesome for parents and teachers who don't have a lot of experience or just on-the-spot ideas for comprehension questions. I know that those are really helpful for me, just prompting me even to remember to ask questions. So that's something you might want to think about before when you're planning your week out with these programs. Gentle and Classical, there's no schedule included, so you're planning that out for yourself. That might be a strength in your opinion. Depends on how flexible you want to be. Now that we've covered the weaknesses, let's move on quickly to the strengths. So Sonlight's language arts program is phenomenal. Overall, as an entire program, I do think this is a phenomenal program. You cannot go wrong with going with it when it comes to all of the subjects, really, except for the arts, like I mentioned, as a weakness. But there's science, language arts. You're learning critical thinking with this curriculum. There's a heavy emphasis on discussion. They have the discussion questions right there, and just building an understanding of God and His Word and His world and apologetics throughout all of Sonlight's curriculum programs. Overall, this is the most comprehensive and inclusive programs. So you're going to have the most subjects in your program and the most help for you, especially if you're a beginning teacher. My father's world has great strengths as well. Their unit studies approach is really good, and it's backed by a lot of educational research. The founder of their program was an elementary school teacher for a while, and so she has knowledge of the benefits of unit studies. This program is overall more hands-on, so if your kids are really wanting to be active and learning things and holding things and seeing things demonstrated for them, then this is the way to go. I really like their Bible program and how they have hands-on things for that. So with Sonlight and the Gentle and Classical, kind of you just read the Bible, you memorize something or something like that. But with my father's world, you actually have, like, 1 week you're planting a seed and you're watching it grow and you're watering it and you're talking about how God makes things grow, or God waters us, or the concepts like this where your child can really visually see something. And for this age group, that is great. That is exactly what I think this age group needs. So I would say that a really big strength of this program is its hands-on interactive approach, which is very Charlotte Mason. Gentle and Classical similarly has many strengths, and those things are things like manners and virtue. You're consciously teaching those to your kids with statements and things that they're memorizing that you can refer back to later. Though my father's world and Sonlight both do also teach manners and those kinds of things. I feel like that's more of a focus in the Gentle and Classical, and I think that is what Erin Cox would love to hear about her program, is its teaching character and virtue. You have narration with storyboards, a very Charlotte Mason concept. The arts are phenomenal in this program. I think that if you want to study the arts and you want that to be a big emphasis, get something from the Gentle and Classical. Even if you're not using their whole program, you can also buy parts of their package. They have a really great art focus and study. Memorization is also something that is a big strength of this program. You're memorizing multiple different things, and you're doing most of that through songs, which is a great way to memorize. Also includes classical literature. So if you want to introduce your kids to things that have been enduring parts of Western European culture, then classical literature. Another big strength is the affordability of this program. So if you live overseas, you can buy this overseas and you can use the program. You don't necessarily have to have all the books for it, but you will find that the math program they recommend is available as a PDF. And so it's a little more friendly with not having to have things shipped, whereas Sonlight and My Father's World, you both are more dependent on the books, and so you have to have them shipped to you. This one is the most standalone type of curriculum, I would say, as far as what you're actually purchasing being sufficient if that's all you use. I would really highly recommend though that you don't skip out on books, whatever program you're using, because especially with this age group, you're establishing a lot of literacy skills. And it's really important that you're reading to your kids. I think the recommendation is 10 books a day at least with your kids, which is a lot of books. Overall impression, this is very much my own opinion, so please take this with a grain of salt and know what's good for your family. Sonlight, overall this program is the most robust. I think this is the most challenging program. It has the history, it has the science with experiments, it has a lot of more advanced types of things that you could do with older ages as well as younger ages than either one of the other programs on this list. The worldview, biblical worldview, is interwoven throughout everything because you have those discussion questions, comprehension questions. You're able to talk about the things that you're reading with your kids, so they're not just learning only biblical things, but they're also learning to evaluate other things in life, which I think is a really good skill, because isolation is not our goal, but rather teaching our kids to think biblically and to be salt and light. My Father's World, overall, this program is probably the most Charlotte Mason, most truly Charlotte Mason, purest Charlotte Mason, is that a thing? And also is more fitting for classrooms as well as homeschool. So if you're looking for a very hands-on program, this is the one to go with out of these three, I think. And also if you're looking for one that is more for a younger kindergartner or for a student who needs a little more time and help with reading, this is the one that I would recommend. Gentle and Classical, overall this one is phenomenal in the arts program. It is very arts heavy. In that way, your student is going to be very knowledgeable about music and famous artists and classical literature. If you're like me, you like to weigh the price of these things. So what is the cost of each of these programs? As of 2022, when I am making this video, these are the prices for each of them. Sonlight, there are several options for buying. If you want to just buy History, Bible, and Literature, you can get 4 days for $353.99, 5 days for $465. And if you want to buy an all subjects package, which includes math, science, all of those subjects as well, then for 4 days you're going to pay $751.54. For 5 days you will pay $807.41. My Father's World only has one package available. You could buy the instructor's guide separately and pick up the books at your library for any of these programs. But My Father's World, the price is $441 for 12 for the program. Now that price does not include math, and if you want to do more in-depth science than the program includes, you're going to be paying extra for that as well. For the Gentle and Classical, you're going to have several different ways to get this program. First of all, if you just want to get their teacher's guide and you don't want to get their cards, memory statements, storyboards, all of that stuff, you can get it for free. You can download the teacher's guide for free, so this is a really budget-friendly option. If you want to get Primer as a digital bundle with all the printables and everything, you would pay $34.99 right now as of this video. And if you want to get it in a digital bundle package, you would be paying $139.99 for the Gentle and Classical plus both nature volumes, I believe. Now, this does not include any of the books, so those are a completely separate price. This is basically just your teacher's guide and the printable resources with it. Thanks so much for joining me for this video today. I wish you all the best in your homeschooling journey, and I hope that you found this video helpful for that. If so, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe because I come out with videos like this every week, and I will see you guys in my next video. Love you. Ciao.